So welcome today to our Lunch and Learn event with Dr. Lynn Johnson, who is the owner of THR Solutions, which is a wonderful HR consulting company. Today, Dr. Johnson is going to discuss a question that is near and dear to all of our hearts, which is this the new normal? Is remote working the new normal? And I know that we use new normal a lot as a phrase right now, as well as pivot, because I feel like we're pivoting to the new normal consistently. So she's going to address those for us. Dr. Johnson provides human resource management consulting services mostly to small and medium-sized organizations. She's been in this field for more than 20 years, and she has extensive experience in management and human resource, both in the corporate and academic arenas. So she's worked closely with clients to determine their best means of achieving their highest levels of performance within their organizations. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the program over to Dr. Lynn Johnson.
Thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate that great introduction. So I would just like to say to everyone, good afternoon and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with me, Dr. Johnson. This is the second one. If you are back, welcome back. If you are new, welcome to this 4 series of different topics that we are having with the Winter Haven Chamber, just to keep us abreast and up to date of things that's quickly and rapidly changing. I'm excited to be spending the next 30 minutes with you, but I'm going to warn you, these 30 minutes will go fast, and it's going to sound as though I am speeding through the content. I will do my best not to speed through the content, because I really want you to take in everything that I'm saying this afternoon with you. And so, who am I? As Amanda has stated, I'm the owner of Triumphant HR Solutions, which we're THR, and what we do is we do our best to lighten the load for small business owners when it comes to human resource management functions, daily activities, or anything that deals with that field. I've been in management and HR for approximately 20 years. I spent 15 years of my life in the corporate arena, and then I switched to academia, and this is what I love to do. And so part of what I love to do is teach. So putting on these webinars and speaking to different companies, small and large, is a great passion of mine, because I believe that we are to always seek knowledge of anything. So I'm a lifelong learner. But enough about me. So today we are going to be talking about this remote working and asking yourself the question, is this the new normal, right? You know, COVID-19 has caused many of us to switch to this remote working very quickly, very quickly. I can just remember when it happened to me. As we transition to reopening, the question is out there. It's out there. Will this remote work continue, right? And if so, how do we actually implement this remote working within our current workforce strategy? This is a huge topic for many of us. But the implementation of remote working is broader, and it's way deeper than many of us realize. So that's why I thought that this presentation would be great for us to have today. Research done by Gallup reported that 60% of the U.S. workers who have been working from home during the pandemic would prefer to work remotely as much as possible in the future. And I believe that companies like yourself, small and large, need to be aware of this. So how do we pivot? You know, what if I told you that implementing a remote workforce strategy long-term could allow you access to new pools of talent and fewer locational constraints, What if I told you that it will allow you to adopt innovative processes to boost productivity? What if I told you that it could allow you to create an even stronger company culture? And lastly, what if you were able to significantly reduce your real estate costs and any other costs that you may have? So ask yourself, what will the future of remote work look like for my company, right? For my company in a post-pandemic world? Will you go back to business as usual and require that everyone work on site, or has the pandemic convinced you that flexible work might be the way to go for the long haul? I don't want you to answer that question right now. I want you to listen to me for the next 20 minutes, and I will cover some of the benefits as well as the challenges that come with implementing a remote workforce strategy long term. And we'll also look at some key things for you to consider when implementing a remote workforce strategy. But today, I want you to first embrace the beauty of remote work. I want you to take it all in, and we're gonna look at some good and some bad, right? So as we've long known, remote work has a host of benefits for employees. However, there are benefits that are worth exploring for the organization like yourself. Again, small or large, it doesn't matter. And this information has been backed by numerous studies and numerous research. So let's look at some of these benefits. The first one, studies show that it reduces employee attrition or employee turnover. We know that losing a valued employee can cost you, your company, anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. We also know that recruiting and training a new hire can actually cost us thousands to do. But I want to go over some statistics with you. 14% of Americans have changed jobs just to shorten their commute. That's the first thing. Almost half of employees feel that their commute is getting worse. 70% of them feel that their employers should take the lead in helping them solve this problem. How many of you have heard this story come across your desk? 92% of employees are concerned with the high cost of fuel, and 80% of them specifically look at the cost of commuting to work. Now, I'm going to throw out a lot of statistics at you today, but I want you to keep in mind what these statistics are really saying. Because 46% of companies that allow remote work say that it reduces turnover. And 95% of employers say that remote work has a high impact on employee retention. And we need this in our companies. Again, small or large, we need it. Another benefit is that it increases employee productivity. You know, you have your companies like Best Buy, Dow Chemical, even your Twitter and your Googles. All of these companies and many others, they show that their workers are 35 to 40% more productive. Now, businesses lose, and this is something that really shocked me, but businesses lose $600 billion a year in workplace distractions. Just think about your day. How much work could you do without the distractions? Now, another study suggests that employees spend 60% of the commuting time that they actually save performing work for the company. And companies like AT&T say that their workers work 5 more hours at home than their office workers do. So they work 5 more hours than the people in their actual offices. JD Edwards says that their remote workers are 20 to 25% more productive than their office workers. And American Express says that they've produced 43% more, their workers, produce 43% more than their office workers. Now, these are just to name a few. Flex jobs. They did an annual survey at the end of 2019, and what they found out was that 65% of professionals think that they would be more productive working remotely. Now, another one, which I think it would be big for your companies as well, small or large, is that it saves employers money. Nearly 6 out of 10 employers identify cost savings as the most significant benefit to remote working. Alpine Access, which is a call center, they confirmed that their remote agents closed 30% more sales than their traditional agents. Now, remote work also offers employers that have to deal with ADA compliance. It offers them inexpensive compliance with their ADA and for their disabled workers. To me, these are great benefits. It saves you money, like when it comes to your overhead, to your real estate costs, to the continuity of your operations. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, you've probably read in different articles, because this number has basically blown up the internet, and almost every article that you read when it comes to remote work is that U.S. employers are saving over $30 billion a day right now, allowing their employees to work from home. And then last, it improves inclusivity. Inclusion. How about we just use that term? Remote work enables companies to embrace diversity and inclusion by hiring people from different socioeconomic and geographic backgrounds, right? Different cultural backgrounds and with different perspectives. And this could be actually challenging for us that's in the office to accomplish this when we're recruiting, especially when we're restricted to a certain specific location that not everyone wants to or can afford to live. Now, by hiring employees who can work from home in communities where they feel safe, where they feel comfortable and supported, wherever that might be, companies actually show that they choose to support diversity, community, and family. Now, remote work also gives people who may have a hard time finding, steady employment, right? Like those with disabilities or caregivers who need that flexible schedule. It gives them the opportunity to follow their career goals. I think this is superb for employers to be able to offer without those type of employees to have to worry about commuting back and forth or going to doctor's appointments, right? So there are many benefits to actually implementing remote work long term, and there is value in it for the now, and there's value in it for after COVID-19. Now, remote working is an opportunity for companies like yourself to change the way of working sustainably, right? And to reap the benefits over the long term. Now, remote working on a larger scale can also offer you flexibility to deal with unexpected events like the COVID-19. Now, with anything, with any advantages or any benefits comes disadvantages or challenges. I would not be a good consultant if I didn't make you aware of the challenges that companies may face if they decide to implement a remote workforce strategy long term. Addressing these potential challenges may take some time, but it is crucial to the success of your employees, but as well as your organization. So let's look at some of these challenges. The first one is employee engagement. Now, whenever there's a conversation about remote work, it is almost always associated with employee engagement. Why? Well, employee engagement varies within our departments, right? Within our offices, right? So for remote workers, especially, many feel that they are disconnected between them and the people at the office or in their company, or even disconnected from the culture of the company. In fact, here's another statistic: 31% of remote workers who have worked in an office setting miss the opportunity to actually have social interaction. Now, I know we're going through COVID-19. I know this, and I know there's this whole social distancing thing. But what about when it's over? You know, we have to really think about this. When we think about social interaction and the lack thereof when it comes to remote work, where this includes the lack of engagement with our peers and our co-workers, the teams that we work with, leadership, and even company culture, like I said. But think about this. I want you to think about this question now. How many methods right now, if that you can think about, do your remote workers have to communicate with you and with each other? It's important for you to know this. Are they continuing to be engaged? There was a webinar that I did a while back with the chamber about some of these things and managing employee engagement during the pandemic. So encouraging team members to talk to each other can strengthen your company culture. It can boost morale. It can inspire collaboration and also innovation. But after all, businesses with greater employee engagement report 21% higher profitability than those without. So it's something to take into consideration. Also, understanding that, and I left this off the slide, but also understanding that remote work is not for everyone. For some, social needs must be addressed, right? Telephone, email, instant messages are the solution for some of these things, but innovative solutions such as virtual outings, online games, and even Second Life, which is a virtual world where people can have remote meetings and they can have different events where they create these avatars. It's a fun and exciting way, a different way for companies to meet and have these type of events. Occasional telework is also a solution as well, but we have to understand that it's not for everybody. But for remote workers to be successful, they have to be self-directed. They also should be comfortable with technology or other arrangements when it comes to remote work and the technical support that they need. They should also have a defined office space. I think it really helps them when it comes to managing their work. But understanding that remote work is not for everyone allows you the opportunity to be successful in implementing a remote workforce strategy. Accessibility and security is very critical when it comes to remote work, where companies, when we look at companies, when we're so used to managing everything centrally and now we have to try to manage everything remotely, this requires more of an in-depth security changes and structural adjustments. Now, remote work often poses a higher threat. I want you to listen to this, this statistic. 25% of employees admit to breaking security policies while working from home. Now, I don't think that that's a good number that we would like to hear, right? But 25%. So while employees have access to what they need to do their jobs, all hours of the day is important, but we have to think about data protection, right? We have to think about data protection. So preventing security threats, it really first begins with having a really comprehensive remote work policy, right? This is where we can list processes and best practices when we deal with things like our networks and our passwords and data and confidential information, and even our cleaning and access to our workstations. The last one I want to talk about is employee burnout. Now, I felt that with all of the different challenges of remote work, I felt that this was something that I needed to bring about today, because employee burnout is something that we must really pay close attention to. There was a doodle survey of more than 1,100 U.S. employees that noted symptoms of burnout with employees who have been working remotely. Now, I want you to just to hear some of the statistics that came from this. Now, a full week, this is what the statistics said. A full week of virtual meetings left 38% of employees feeling exhausted, while 30% felt stressed. Just think about yourself. Now think about your employees. How are you feeling during this time? Performance anxiety and business pressures push employees into this competitive mode. We have to take that under consideration. 63% of employees were likely to record and actually rewatch their virtual meetings. Why? Because they wanted to be better at presenting and strengthening their client relationships. And here's a big one: noise throws online meetings off track and leads to miscommunication. 52% of employees said background noise and poor audio quality disrupted their focus, while 23% said it leads to miscommunication with clients. In particular, talking in the background, that was 55%, and notification alerts, that was 20%. And they noted that these two were the most disruptive types of background noise. It makes me think about the Progressive commercial. I know you guys have recently seen the Progressive commercial when they're all in the Zoom meeting and everybody has something going on, right? Some of this really represents some of our meetings that we have. But it's important for us to note, right? So even if the future of work is remote, and I want you to also keep in mind that in-person client meetings will always be in demand. Even though this survey was about remote work, there was a notation that 40% of employees also felt that they would be less likely to meet clients virtually, even when the lockdown or the social distancing rules have been lifted. So we always have to keep that in mind as well. So I've only listed a few challenges. Of course, there's more, but investing or non-investing in remote working will actually have just this far-reaching consequence that we have to really think about. Now, lastly, I want to really quickly go over these things. Now, it is going to feel like I'm going to kind of run through these quickly, but I'm always available for any further conversation that you might want to have. But regardless of your reasons for implementing remote working capabilities within your organizations, it's important for you to actually think strategically. You have to take a strategic approach in order to be successful in the long term, right? Remote work, it offers unique challenges, but companies must address these challenges in order to maximize the actual benefit that remote working can bring. So here are just a few things that you can consider. Worker classification is one. So roles can be reclassified into employee segments by considering value that remote work could actually bring to your organization. So you can have fully remote employees, hybrid remote but exception employees, and then you can have on-site employees that don't have the option of remote work. But you know, when you reclassify or you think about reclassifying jobs or your employees, always keep in mind your organizational priorities. I cannot stress that enough. Another thing to do is to consider payroll, worker compensation, and in your benefits policies, because location is important when it comes to these policies that you have. It's important in determining where your company will be subject to income tax reporting and other payment obligations such as payroll taxes, wage withholding, unemployment insurance, all of these things that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at having a remote workforce strategy. Another one is data protection. I know I talked about it before, but I want to just hit on it briefly, because when you look at implementing a remote workforce policy, it comes with increased use of personal devices, insecure Wi-Fi connections, risky file sharing practices, and any other actions that could actually pose a threat to your company's sensitive data. So it's important that you establish when I say robust, I mean really robust processes to protect corporate and employee data and to ensure compliance with data protection laws, because they're different in every jurisdiction. However, you do not want to not be in compliance when it comes to data protection. And then lastly is to manage timekeeping and overtime risk. Employers must always be aware of the wage and hour laws, especially when it comes to non-exempt workers. This is something you really have to take into consideration when you are thinking about having a remote workforce strategy long-term. Now, for successful organizations, offering this flexible working policies will be considered the norm. I'm just going to be honest with you. And companies that don't take the time to think about this will risk being left behind, because it will become an important factor when people are considering where they choose to work. Do you offer this type of flexibility? So I present my question to you again that I presented in the beginning. Will you go back to business as usual? And will you require that everyone work on site? Or has this pandemic actually convinced you to be flexible with your work? And that, you know what, this pandemic has shown me as an organization that a flexible work schedule might be the way to go for the long haul. I want you to think about that question. And although I gave you some benefits and I gave you some challenges and also some things to consider, the reality is both sides of the argument of having a remote workforce strategy long-term are probably right. Every organization is different, and so are the circumstances of every individual employee. Today, I challenge you to reimagine how work is being done in this post-pandemic world. I know it sounded like I sped through all of that, but I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I know we might have some questions, but just know that I'm available for you. You can contact me anytime. I have my information on the screen. This conversation can go way deeper than this 25-minute call today. So thank you again for listening to me. I appreciate it. And thank you, Amanda, for allowing me to come and speak again to your great members. Thank you.
Lynn, I know that I speak for our members on the call and our members that weren't able to make it on, that I've just received 3 different text messages saying, I couldn't get on the call, I'm busy doing such and such. Is it going to be on YouTube? We recorded all of this. It's going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And I want to just say thank you so much for doing this. I'm, again, taking copious notes. I love the embrace the beauty of remote work. I am totally going to steal that phrase. But I know that we all have questions. And one of the things that, that I kind of thought about was, as somebody who's worked remote, I worked remote in Europe for many years. If a company wanted to specifically undertake some training for their department heads on managing staff who are remote working, is that something that you can do?
Yes, definitely. I have done quite a bit of studies. I've also managed remote work as well. Some of you know I do work at the university, and a big part of what my department had to do when the pandemic hit was we had to go fully remote. I mean, fully remote with everything. And you're taking a traditional educational environment and putting them all online with employees that are not used to doing that because they chose to work as a traditional professor, right, instructor. So yes, I'm definitely able to do that and to come up with different policies, strategies, trainings that any company may need.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for doing this for us, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, everybody, to our members who joined us today. We will upload this to YouTube, and please feel free to reach out to Dr. Johnson. She will happily work with you to meet your own expectations. Next Monday, please join us. Dr. Johnson is going to talk more about how we implement the policies and procedures around COVID situation and remote working and all that entails. So we hope to see you next Monday. If we do not see you before, of course, on Thursday evening, we would love all of you to join us on our networking showcase call from 5 till 6. And on Friday morning at 10 a.m. we have our coffee and conversation with our city leaders, talking about updates on things happening at the city. So again, have a wonderful rest of your Monday, and we thank you again for joining us. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.